Daily Voice of Randy Joseph for this morning talks of Bakri royalty coming to the United Kingdom. In that said paper, still a cultural celebration uniting the diaspora. We move forward with this other story that talks of opposition leader slams Bia's misguided extension of parliamentary mandates. You get to read details on that paper on page 2 of Daily Voice for this morning. Cameroon's untold story: how fierce Bakri warriors defeated the Germans during the German colonial days in Cameroon. We move forward with Loju of Amanmana for this morning. Loju for this day is reporting on the Gendarmerie Department in Bafusam. It says hierarchy of the Cameroon National Movement Party summoned by the Gendarmerie office in Bafusam. And Olympic Games Paris 2024 is talks of 6 Cameroonian athletes from Team Cameroon disappears in Paris. Get to read details on that story for today. And certain priests of Catholic Church who have been accused of rape and sexual harassment summoned by the College of Bishops. We move away from that story from the Catholic Church to Mitasyong. Mitasyong talks of the Supreme State Audit Office and the National Social Insurance Fund. It says what is at fault or what is wrong. That's a question you can find on Mitasyong of Thierry Tiaga for today. And Kikod Mbembe talks of the intimidations that still continues, and move on to the procurement of the national identity card. Celestine Bizigi speaks on that situation. Let's move on to the next paper for today. The next publication, the Guardian Post, is reporting on 2025 presidentials, why Biya regime dreads Kamto. In that said paper, still Cameroonian dies in deserts and hold to Europe for greener pastures. Douala, 2 drown in a swimming bed at the Sandaga stream in downtown Douala. A land fuel tanker explosion in the Yaoundé 3 subdivision. It says health minister provides psychological assistance to victims. That is what you can read on the bottom page story of the Guardian Post for this morning. From the Guardian Post, we move forward with the next publication for today. Municipal updates. Municipal update of Victor Cham is reporting on the extension of mandates of MPs. Opposition MPs failed to resign despite resistance. And West Region, Boisson to Cameroon invest fresh 15 million francs in the educational sector in the West Region. Boya, the paper report on Commonwealth of Learning Canada, IRAD trains farmers on ICT vegetable farming. Moving on to Nigerian Cameroon Commission, it says UN recommend joint exploitation of hydrocarbon across maritime borders. You want to find details on that said paper of municipal updates for this morning. From municipal updates, we cross over to La Meteo. La Meteo is reporting on quarry. It says quarry of public interest. Full Caritas Gentry, Interim Minister of Mines and Technology, comes out with the banning on certain quarries in the nation that have not of community interest. Get to read more on that said paper for today. Echo du Parlement, the Parliamentary Affairs newspaper, reports on the National Assembly law to extend mandate of members of the National Assembly adopted after heated debates. That is what you can read on page 2 of that paper for this day. And the stance of information exchange in security operative, that's still making a worrisome situation there on page 6 on Echo du Parlement. From Echo du Parlement, we move forward with the next paper, the CPDM paper of L'Action. L'Action report on the extension of the mandates of the members of the National Assembly. It says the advantages of mandate extension. Get to read more on that said paper for today. To lighten the 2025 electoral calendar, bill extends mandate of MPs to 2026. And vaccine company, the paper report on how the CPDM party is putting on a formidable force when it comes to the vaccine company in Cameroon. Cameroon Northwest region. CPDM militant supporters flood electoral registers. Get to read more on that paper for this morning. Moving on to La Voix de Jeune for this morning. La Voix de Jeune is reporting on Brenda Biya, the lone daughter of Paul Biya, who the paper reports on the what Cameroonians still believe in what the president's daughter did as she uploaded unseen video of her making out with a lady. And just to reiterate on the stance of the Cameroonian government against LGBTQ plus in the nation. Info our show for this morning talks of the summoning by the Gendarmerie Legion office in Bafoussam to some hierarchy of Maurice Kamto, and Kamto himself. He says this is the reason why Kamto Maurice was absent during that summon of yesterday. And we move forward with the National Assembly. He says a Cameroonian president elected as the president of La Francophonie Parliamentary Group. I get to read more on that set paper for today. Moving on to Repair. Repair talks of Operation Sparrowhawk. Mekundu Vondo get to read more on how Operation Sparrowhawk is entangling towards the doorstep of Mekundu Vondo, who happens to be the Director General of the National Social Insurance Fund, known for short in French as CNPS. Cameroon, the International Monetary Fund, a new pack of 45 billion CFA France loan that Cameroon has just acquired from the Bretton Woods institution of the IMF. That is what you can read on that paper for this morning. Away from that story, let's now make a stop over with the economic newspaper Quotidien Economy. Talks of the first semester of 2024. It says the various companies and enterprises that are making the financial sector boost in Cameroon. You can find more on that publication for today. Institution Nigeria and Cameroon engage in the African energy sector as both nations are exchanging on ideas in order to better handle the affairs of that institution. Away from that sector, African First Bank record a remarkable increase of trade as Trade Finance Report. You can find more on that said publication for this day. We now move on to Nigeria with The Guardian. The Guardian reports on new ministry. Tinubu vows headers with livestock ministry increase fiscal strain. In that said paper still, Senate raises alarm over empty food reserve warned of imminent protests, and Kwonso expel 175 students for theft, possession of firearms, and other criminal accusations. Away from that story, Daily Trust for this morning says suspend Samoa agreement implementation. Reps tells federal government some of our staff are bandits. Informat Katsina State speaks to Daily Trust for this day. Ex-RFI ex-commissioners counter Kaduna Assembly's report with financial details why bandits killed 5 soldiers, set truck ablaze in Kaduna State in north-central Nigeria. Daily Sun for this day talks of food crisis. Senate warns of nationwide protest, says food reserve empty. Southeast Town Union backs governor's demand for Kanu's Nnamdi Kanu's freedom. Away from that story of Nnamdi Kanu, we move on to federal government spent 5.57 trillion naira on debt servicing in the 9 months of 2023, according to Budget Office of Nigeria, who speaks on that. Leadership for this Wednesday morning talks on withheld salaries. Varsity workers protest, say we are hungry. Tinubu creates livestock ministry despite Orosea's report, and Aerofire's audited accounts show no 423 billion naira fraud according to AIDS. Northwest Commission build ready for Tinubu's assent, according to the Speaker of the National Assembly of Nigeria, Godswill Akpabio, who speaks on that. Nigerian News Direct for this morning is talking on Tinubu targets economic prosperity from livestock development. In that said paper, federal government inaugurates new SEC board, charges members to drive capital markets growth, and NCAA to sanction airline operators over deficit or departure, withheld salaries, protest rocks Lagos State, Ogun State, Osun State, and other states of Nigeria as NASU threatens indefinite strike action. Nigerian Tribune for this Wednesday morning talks on Tinubu kicks off reform development of livestock sector, creates ministry. And thus we move on to page 4. It talks of reps urge federal government to halt Samoa Agreement implementation, no gay rights requirement in Samoa deal, according to the National Assembly, who is talking on that story. Tough. New Telegraph for this day says hardship address food crisis to avoid Nigerians hunger. Senate warns federal government. And PMS 13 vessels set to offload 230.5 billion worth of products. And Tinubu creates livestock ministry to stem farmers headers clash. And we crossed onto the Daily Times for this day. It says ICPC bewarms soaring cases of sexual harassment in primary secondary schools all across Nigeria. Federal government issues 3 months delivery deadline to contractors. Rivers State crisis, pro Wike Assembly amends education law, return to school to government control. And House urge ROMFC to withhold allocation from Federation Act to local government chairmen. We will wrap up this first part of the program with The Nation. The Nation for this morning talks of minimum wage, labor hopeful of better deal. That is what The Nation is reporting on page 25. In asset paper, former governor of the Nigerian Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, how Emefiele removed millions to wife by witness gathers this economic fraud story you can find on that said paper for today. Federal government gets Ministry of Livestock Development. Get read details on that creation of Tinubu on page 9. And with The Nation, this is what put a pause on the first part of the program, but we'll be here with a reviewer who will be taking us through the second phase of the program. Alright there, viewers, if you are joining us, you are on to the second phase of the program. And joining me to review the People's Vote today is Musa Naibu, our reviewer for this morning. Hello there, Musa, and you're heartily welcome.
Thank you very much, Larry. Good morning, viewers. Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure again to talk or to highlight what the press is saying this morning. A country that we love, our country, Cameroon, a focus of press. I think it's a great pleasure for me to sit here to review the press.
All right. Right on, we start off with the first paper for this day. The first paper for today, we begin with the publication of the Guardian Post for today. The Guardian Post of Christian Gar for this morning report on 2025 presidentials. Why Kamto regime dreads? Why Biya dreads Kamto regime? That is what. Why Biya regime threats come to, that is what you can find on that said paper, following the summoning of the Gendarmerie Legion office in Bafoussam, who summoned Maurice Kamto and some of his hierarchy members, high-ranking figures of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party.
Yes, I think a lot is happening, and 2025 election is coming, and it is believed to be one of the most contested elections and highly anticipated by many Cameroonians. And someone like Maurice Kamto, who is gaining popularity, you could see in 2018 how far he has gone with politics, despite the fact that he started the party at that particular time. He has great followers in Bafoussam, in Littoral region, and so on and so forth, and nationally. And when you realize even the outing of the Minister of Administration, Paul Atanganji, when he had meeting with the 10 governors, in his opening remarks, he said 2025 is very crucial and the governors, they should be alert. And he warned people who will be there to destabilize the nation, as he mentioned. So Maurice Kamto, normally he does not match well with Paul Atanganji setting, and maybe there are a lot of exchanging. That's why they call him for question. I think it's normal. The tensions are high, and such thing we must expect them coming up.
Okay, and let's move away from the Maurice Kamto story on another different story. According to the Guardian Post for this morning, the paper of Christian Gar for this morning is reporting on this other saga. In the said publication, Cameroonian dies in the desert and moved to Europe for greener pastures due to the economic situation we find ourselves, high cost of living, inflation that is not that is dealing with the common man on the streets of Cameroon.
Yes, it's a lot. I think many Cameroonians are going through a lot, and people can do anything to move out of this country. We could clearly see it when the express travel to Canada was launched. You could see what was happening in UV, the number of people that were willing to sacrifice and go. And paying that huge money is just to ride and have the certificate which will help them to apply. So it shows you
a limited number.
Yeah, of course, there are limited numbers. Though Canada is absorbing a lot of people, but of course, it's limited too. So it shows that people can do anything to move out of the country, despite the fact that the head of state has discouraged in leaving the country by all means. He says people can travel, but it should be regulated.
Yeah.
You see people sacrificing a lot, going through desert, and it's always risky.
Mediterranean Sea.
Yes, we have heard of a lot, and Europe is not welcoming. You realize that recently the right wing of many parties, especially France, in Germany, in UK, we have seen that, and many European countries are changing, and those parties, they are very stingy in when it comes to migration law. So it's difficult days still ahead. What we can advise Cameroonians is that despite the situation that we find ourselves, you can still make it in Cameroon. People make it in Cameroon. So you should not travel by all costs. Traveling is good. It should not be by all costs. You risk your life, you risk everything that you have, at the end you don't meet your destination. It becomes very challenging.
All right, Musa, I chuckle because you of the statement that you said you can still make it in Cameroon. Reality on ground, you see still make it in Cameroon where things are not favorable enough for the common man. You see in the stamp on the national identity card just triple and quadruple, if I may put it, from 2,500 francs to 10,000 francs, and cost of living is not smiling at the common man, and inflation too, hyperinflation is still there, though some government officials will argue that that there's no hyperinflation, but on the man on the street is suffering from all of this wahala, and some of you say you can still make it in Cameroon.
Yes.
How possible?
Mr. Lara, I agree with you that there are a lot of challenges going on now presently in Cameroon, and not only in Cameroon, in majority of the world. You see there are a lot of inflation, and because of the wars that are going on, funding for many countries have reduced, especially for developing countries. The target now is towards Ukraine, Gaza, and so on and so forth. So those are some of the challenges that we are facing. As you mentioned, they have increased the cost of production of ID card. We know basic commodities, they have gone up. It's not easy for many Cameroonians out there. But believe me, despite those challenges, people still make it. It's not really easy, but people still make it. What we can plead with the government, they should be merciful when it comes to tax, especially for a new startup. They discourage always new startup. As the head of state always encourage that entrepreneurship is a solution, and I agree with him. Now the question is, how is it feasible to be an entrepreneur here in Cameroon? It becomes very challenging with the policies that we have with increase in tax. It makes it difficult for Cameroonians. But despite the fact, Mr. Larry, it's good to be here in Cameroon than to move through the desert and you risk your life and you don't reach Europe. It becomes a very big challenge. So you weigh the two. And I must tell you that in Cameroon is better than the risks that you are taking. If it was a normal procedure to travel, that one is a different case, and risking it all to make it to Europe, it becomes very challenging for many Cameroonians, and I don't always encourage many youths to engage on that. Here in Cameroon, despite the challenges, as I mentioned, people still make it. There are few people, but of course, there's always a way out, and we hope for a better nation tomorrow.
All right, and we move on to La Voix des Jeunes. We talk on the lone daughter of Paul Biya, President of the Republic, Brenda Biya, who sees the AI situation in the nation needs to the AI situation in the nation following her sexual video of same-sex relationship with a Brazilian girl or something like that, making out, and this video went viral on the social media space. But according to the daughter of Paul Biya, she is saying it was all it was not her. So according to that paper, and we don't forget that one of the human rights activists in the nation has just tabled a complaint against Paul Biya's daughter, Brenda Biya.
Okay, but I think she has not justified that video is made up. She did not do it. They just went and edited the video. She has not justified that. No, she said her account was hacked, and that's all. Now, Mr. Larry, we can see that many European countries, America, and even recently, I think, is it Japan or Australia, they adopted the same-sex marriage. And we are seeing it is gradually pushing us to the wall, despite the fact that our country, we want to thank the government, still have that firm stand on it. Now, gradually, you realize that what the nations are doing now to encourage is they put a lot of budget into it, and they give you some constraint if you are not part of that to have their funding. And honestly, in Africa, since we depend much on the West for aid and so on and so forth, It's like we're in a very deep problem. And someone like the lady or the daughter of the head of state, I think it's a shame to engage in that, despite the fact that the dad is a strong critic against that, and equally someone who is a very good Christian, a Catholic Christian, who will not entertain that. So we have seen the video. Obviously, it has happened that we have seen there are a lot of reaction, kissing and so on in that video. But she still claimed that they have hacked her account. Now, what about the video? That's what the people are saying.
Of it.
I think in social media, many Cameroonians have flooded and criticizing that what is happening with her. She needs a psychologist to discuss her and so on and so forth. So it's a very challenging issue, which of course is very new to Cameroon, and the government is not ready to accept it now, and is coming targeting the top personality, his daughter, and I think there's a need for him to sit with her and discuss with her. We don't know what is really the problem. It might be influence of friends, or if her account has been hacked, where is the video coming from?
All right, we are talking on a child who many describe as a delinquent, many describe as a wayward child, many describe, or they give all sort of attribution to the said child of the president, who has been involved in several outrageous social media outings, if not calling out the father, calling out the mother, doing, all sort of nasty controversies. So, and this video coming from such a person, it was like deja vu or native.
I think, Mr. Larry, you should understand that where you live has a lot to play in you. She is not in Cameroon.
In as much as the other siblings too are not in Cameroon.
Of course, and that's why you realize that those kind of attitude always come from the ways where they give people or children a lot of right over their parents. And when you are not very careful, you copy. African man, they have their own different way of treating that. An African father can flog a child, but in the West, you dare that, they will sue you and you go to jail. So there are a lot of things that always happen, and where you live matters a lot. I remember that, as I mentioned to you, many of these Western countries, they have adopted same-sex marriage. So it's normal for them out there. But here in Cameroon, it's something that is still new, and the government is very resistant to it, which we salute the effort of the government for resisting that. We remember that this, of course, even is in the Bible, it is there, in the Quran is there. The people that God Almighty punished because of homosexuality, and that punishment was so grave. Up to now, the area, even grass cannot grow in that area. So we know the consequences of that, and we pray that, despite the fact that she is in the Western world studying, it's good she has someone like a psychologist or a psychiatrist to advise her. Yes, to counsel her.
Mental status, because according to you, she's not stable.
Well, that's not what I'm saying, but maybe someone with that behavior is good to really find out what is happening deeply with her.
And we were talking on the LGBTQ plus system in the nation. This one, let's cross over to this newspaper that is reporting on the Samoa Agreement. This is the summit of the Caribbean and African countries summit that just took place in Samoa. The paper Daily Trust for this morning is reporting on suspend Samoa Agreement implementation. Reps tells federal government. This is a Nigerian paper, as Nigeria too is one of the signatories who signed the Samoa Agreement. In that agreement, it says you need to have universal gender rights for all. And going by the universal gender rights theory, it incurs LGBTQ plus people. So Now, this situation has caused the National Parliament, the National Assembly of Nigeria, to they are calling for the suspension and cancellation of this bill. And you know, the West, they know the way they do their things. They will package their US dollars, billions of US dollars to give you, and there you have clause. So they went and signed this Samoa agreement in Samoa during the African Caribbean Countries Summit that was initiated by the European Union. What do you
Yes,
think of that?
I think, Mr. Larry, first of all, before you sign something like that, it's good to reflect on that and see the consequences of signing such an agreement.
Okay.
And secondly, Mr. Larry, as you mentioned, our main problem is that we are still begging. And when you are begging, they use whatever means to hold you and bring you closer with money. And this is a problem of many African countries, despite the fact that we say we have a lot that we can stand on our own. But because of bad governance in Africa, bad leadership, we still have that challenge that we are still expecting from the West. And the West are the highest donors when it comes to a lot of our projects. For example, you realize that many of these organizations, like International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, all of that, European Union, all of them, there are people who have made it, or there are organizations that are controlled by the West, and they have a lot of funds that are assisting Africans. And sometimes when those funds comes, they have a particular target to achieve. And that target is that they tell you what you need to do with the money. And this is how they capture many Africans into this. You know, Africans are very good morals people, and they believe a lot in Christianity, Islam, and so on and so forth.
And African traditional beliefs.
And yes, African traditional belief, which of course is equally very good. Before the European came, it was the epic. That is a religion that we knew.
Yeah.
So all of this made Africa to be different from others. Now, coming together again to impose on Africa to sign, maybe perhaps because you have been promised aid or you have been promised some project, it becomes very challenging. I'm very happy as they suspend that implementation of that.
They are calling for the suspension and cancellation even by the National Assembly is calling on that.
Yes, it's really necessary. Okay. Because if we are not very careful, we might plunge ourselves into trouble before we realize that. But we must tell you that there are some even African countries that have accepted this, and is gradually coming and moving towards us. In the West,
I think it's just South Africa, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, if it's South Africa is in Africa, and that is another
one out of 54.
Yes, if one can accept gradually, maybe others too can join with time. Who knows? So it's a very big challenge for us, and we believe that our policies in Africa is different from the West. And the West does not have the right to impose their agenda into us. Because we have our culture.
Yeah, because in Africa, it's normal for you to get married to more than one wife.
Yes,
in the
sure.
West, they will tell it's criminal. It's a criminal act. So they refuse our own attributes, our own belief, but wants to force theirs down our throat.
Yes, you know, Mr. Larry, you have raised something which is very important. They force or they make you to marry only one wife, and you could have a lot of concubines around. Nobody will question you. You have girlfriends here and there. Nobody will question you. And here in Africa, we have our own dignity. You marry a legal wife, is your wife, you take care of her. You can marry to more than one wife, which of course is very good. And the world, they tell you that today the number of women are far more than the number of men. So if they just restrain that
1:1,
it becomes a very big problem for every woman to have a husband.
Okay. So that is the where we live in. So we move away from that paper to municipal updates. It says extension of mandates of MPs. Opposition MPs failed to resign despite resistance as they are opposing the extension of mandates of the members of the legislature.
Yes, Mr. Lara, I think it's a very big challenge for Cameroon, and We don't know how manage that Cameroon with the economy, the program for election in 1 year. But they knew it before, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, they knew it before. And now they have given a justification. Of course, the constitution permit that they can propose and the parliament adopt. It is permitted and they are not against the constitution. Now, what the constitution says is when there is a crisis, and the constitution has not defined the gravity of the crisis and the level of the crisis and what kind of crisis. Is it political, economic? They have not been specific. Now the Prime Minister has given his own reason that it is an uphill task for Cameroon to organize 4 elections with the present economy. There is not like that Cameroon is going through a lot, as we mentioned earlier. You know, the economy of Cameroon is not doing well as much as other countries equally. There are a lot of inflation and there are a lot of... That's why you see even the head of state mentioned that because of the economic situation, he wants to remove or reduce in subsidies in fuel to cut government spending. Then he equally has increased some taxes like the ID card and so on to recover funds, maybe perhaps to meet up with the election. Now we know that one of the most important elections is the presidential election.
Of course.
However, despite this justification that the economy cannot withstand this number of elections, but critics have mentioned that they are doing it for political gain. It's a way of silencing other opposition parties that they don't have in elected figures. Like for example, when they do that, when they suspect that, it means that MRC will not have that right to stand unless they coalesce with an opposition or they bring 300 signatories throughout the national territory from elites, which of course we have seen that it might be impossible for them to do that. So other critics, they say they are just doing that just to discourage or to gain politically by discouraging the main opposition party. But whatever the situation, for sure, Cameroon, the economy is not doing well and becomes a very big challenge. Now the question is, Mr. Larry, they are the one who has planned this election, right?
Sure.
In a year. They knew that it might be very difficult to handle 4 elections. Of course, logistics is very challenging, and to organize election it requires a lot of logistics. So all of this becomes one can cohort with the government that what they are saying might be making sense. The other opposition, they are there criticizing. However, they are there criticizing. We know that the bill will pass, and the opposition, despite the fact that they are rejecting, there are a lot of challenging, they are not resigning for sure, and equally they will vote against, but will not have any impact. Remember that
due to the obese majority of the CPD.
Yes, of course, the CPD is super majority. They have more than 152 seats in the lower house out of 180. Of course, that is a lot of majority, and anything that they bring, it can pass as long as it is proposed by the government, because the government is the ruling party. So it's really a challenging situation, and that's why we mention Mr. Larry. I always say it. Boycotting election is not an option. I think SDF they have learned from the boycott that they did in 1990s. And Maurice Kamto maybe did not understand the implication of that. It's today that he is seeing that this issue is not that easy. So we are advising that the opposition, boycotting election is not an option. Remember in 2018, Mr. Maurice Kamto had a lot of followers, and if he could go for parliamentary and municipal, he would have had a lot of parliamentarians.
And council, win some councils.
Yes, but for now, he is just there. If they approve the bill, he does not have anywhere to go than to maybe collide with any opposition, which I'm seeing opposition in our country, they are not willing to do that.
They are quite fragmented, of
course.
quite fragmented and divided in dispersed rank. Musa, we now talk with the CPDM political newspaper, that is L'Action.
Okay.
L'Action says mandates of members of parliament and municipal councillors extended. The advantages of set extension of mandate, according to the CPDM paper, who is giving a hand clap on that, says it's a great idea, it's a great thing till election comes 2026.
Yes, for sure, Larry, CPDM will be very happy because they know that the main opposition party which will stand against them is the MRC. Yes, the party of Maurice Kamto. And
but why not SDF?
SDF, we have seen that SDF since 1990s, they have been gradually reducing. And today, they are counting of, I think, 3 or 4 parliamentarians in the lower.
No, I think it's 5 or 6.
Well, that number which is not up to 10. But remember, they have gone up.
Yeah, they were really up there in the 90s.
Yes, and equally, this crisis has affected CPDM, SDF, sorry. Remember that they have their stronghold in the northwest and southwest region.
And due to the conflict, the armed conflict is quite restrained.
It's restraining, and they've lost a lot of their parliamentarians, and you realize that many of the parliamentarians, they did not even stand for the election because they knew and understood that no matter the situation, they will not win because, first of all, they don't have the security like the other CPDM. They don't have
people didn't go out to vote due to persistence of gunshots all across the region.
Yes, most of these voted are the civil servant, the military people, and so on. We know all of that.
The gimmicks.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, moving away from the hand clap there given by the CPDM party to the extension of mandates by the executive to the members of the legislature and municipal figures, we now move on to Repair newspaper for today report on Operation Sparrowhawk knocking at the door of Nkulum Vondo, who is the Director General of the National Social Insurance Fund. This follows a report done by the Supreme State Audit Office headed by Acha Mba Rose, who gave a damning report towards the gentleman Nkulum Vondo.
Yes, Mr. Larry, when we talk of this high-ranking official, first of all, I think the head of state had confidence in them. That's why he appointed them there. And we have seen in the past years, many ministers, they are in jail today. Many top government officials, they are in jail.
The whole government?
Yes. And I think we can say here that it's really a shame for those kind of personality to be impeached or to be sentenced because of corruption issue. We know that it will not be easy. We have seen ministers who are arrested, who are tried and still released back, like the former minister of Public Works.
Water, energy.
Sorry, yes, water and energy. Yes. So we have equally seen ministers who are in Konengena, like the former minister of transport, who is in prison now.
That of finance, Polycarp Baba, that of public health, you Bel Olangona, Inoni Frame, former prime minister, Fonjinjam, former director general of Chantier Naval.
Yes.
The list is quite and some have died in the process, like Professor Jeve Mendoza of CR TV who died, and this other lady too, Aman Adama, who was minister of basic education, went to Kondengi, came out later on and died, and the list.
So there are many, and it must tell you that no matter who you are, the law will still take its course, and that's one good thing about Cameroon. When they want to do it, they will do it. Despite the fact that ministers move around with generals and so, like the former minister of defense who always move around with more than 8 generals when he's traveling. When you look at his convoy, you feel like he's a president.
You can imagine.
He can do and undo, and today he is in Koneng.
And the same one whose wife set up a place.
Yes, money. Yes. Now, Mr. Larry, sometimes I'm very frustrated with this system. Number one is that this money that they are stealing, that are stealing is from taxpayers. It is from Cameroonians.
Yeah.
And when you arrest them and you don't recover the money, it
doesn't make any
becomes
sense.
a very big challenge. And the Constitution of Cameroon permit that you should declare your asset before you hold such posts, such offices. And many of them, they don't declare. They have a lot of bank accounts in separate countries.
Offshore accounts, in
like
Swiss banks.
Yes, all of that. And this money, the question is, how do they have access to this money? Why is it that there is not a procedure that is defined for financial collection in the ministry? Why can the Ministry of Finance not define a procedure of collection? Why is minister have that right to hold more than 1 billion CFA francs? What is he doing with that money? So there's a lot that needs to be. Arresting them is not enough. There are a lot of procedure that they need to revamp in the system, and they need to recover the money. Sometimes when they are locking the Konenge, it's expenditure for the state equally. Yeah. The state spend a lot of money. I learned that in Konenge there is a VIP DC. And it's a really shame.
You can furnish your apartment.
It's a shame.
Like when the man of his own card, Jean-Pierre Moko Belinga, was sentenced late before he could even go there. His own prison yacht was already furnished by him, and he had like a studio. He watches his TV, everything well painted and well decorated.
Yes, so I really wonder the kind of correction, because when they arrest someone, they are supposed to correct him. And I wonder the kind of correction that they are sending out. Remember, even in the court, the former minister of defense was drinking wine that they say the estimate of that wine is close to 1 million.
Of course.
That is arrogant. You cannot be in the court and you are drinking that kind of wine.
Champagne. He was given champagne.
Yes.
Drinking champagne worth millions of CFA.
So what message are you sending to Cameroonians?
And in the law court, why things are not permitted like that? I don't know a country.
A prison should not have VIP section. Those ministers, I were the one.
It's like a 5-star hotel.
Yes. I was asked to propose what they can do to those who have stolen a lot of funds. Mm-hmm. The state should seize all their properties. They should seize all their dresses, everything that they are using, and just allow them to be roaming around, not permitting them to go out. Mm-hmm. Just allow them in their small house. Yeah. They should be roaming around there without any permission for them. They should quarantine them like that till they die. As
if they were suffering from corona.
Yes.
Okay, Musa, let's move away from corruption scandal in Cameroon. We move on to Grand Aigle for this morning. The paper is talking of the political climate in the nation. Maurice Kamto, does he want war in the country? That's the question Grand Aigle is asking for this morning.
Yes.
Does Maurice Kamto want war in the nation?
Well, maybe the Maurice Kamto, he will answer the question himself, but I don't think that...
According to his activities,
I don't see...
outpours and outcries.
Yes, I don't see where he has threatened that he wants war in Cameroon. I think there are a lot of tension.
Declaring yourself that you are the winner of the election while results are not being published, isn't that one of the characteristics?
No, I think he predicted right. He predicted
he said, I have won, not I think I'm winning.
But there was an opportunity that was given to him to justify his winning, and he could not justify that, and that's why they took the election and gave it to the winner. So I told you that election is coming and there's a lot of tension, especially with the Minister of
Territorial Administration.
Yes.
The no-nonsense Paul Atanganji.
Yes, of course. When he speaks, you realize that he's serious.
What they say the neighborhoods are stuck and do.
Yes, for sure. The minister that can stand and say it like that, and he goes free without any problem. So for sure, Maurice Kamto does not go well with him. First of all, there are banned. There are some activities that the party was supposed to hold in the past years. Yeah. They require permission from the DO, and we see it turned down, and all of that. It becomes a very big challenge for him. But as I told you, the 2025 is pregnant, and there's a lot of tension around, and hopefully we'll see Paul Atangani has mentioned that anyone that jeopardizes the election, they will not take it like that.
Or the security of the state.
Yes, for sure. So it's not easy, and we hope that Maurice Kamto is not. He doesn't want war in Cameroon. It's the nature of the tension that is coming because of the election, and hopefully will subside after the election.
And going by the words of the Paul Atangani minister, the no-nonsense minister of Treasury Administration, qui vend les œufs ne vend pas les vagas, that he who sells egg doesn't look for trouble. Yes. Because when trouble comes, those eggs of yours are going to be broken.
You know, he's a man of parlant, and he knows how to use it well.
Parables and all the dictums and ghetto language you can imagine.
Yes, yes.
All right, so we move away from that situation. We now talk sports, and we are talking on 2024 Euros that is unfolding in the nation of Germany. It says Spain 2, France 1. Gritty la Roja Aigle le Bleu to reach finals of the Euro 2024. We are seeing mind-blowing football that has been given to us by these European nations in the Euros 2024 tournament. As yesterday, France was beaten. France, where the French team many describes as Africa United Football Club, were beaten by Spain in a 2-1 victory.
Yes, Mr. Larry, I think we have seen a very good football in this tournament, and we must tell you that Europe is where football is. When they are playing, you really enjoy that game. Yeah. One, because their clubs are advanced. Europe has one of the greatest clubs in the world that we know of. And
they invented football. Football was invented in Great Britain.
For sure. And look at the even leagues like the Premier League, La Liga, League One, the Serie League, and so on. Those are very strong league, Bundesliga and so on. So, I must tell you that football is in Europe when you look at them play. Now, coming back to the game of Spain and France, I must tell you that I knew from the beginning that France cannot withstand Spain.
I didn't see
Why?
that
Because
coming. I didn't see that coming. I was I'm a staunch supporter of Africa United.
Yes.
So I was of the opinion that my boys, my black boys, they were going to why not carry the trophy at the end of the day. But the Spaniards, they have the way they do their football gimmicks and magic. And to top it all, my boys didn't play well. The Africa United didn't play well. Aside from Kylian Mbappe, who actually came up with a lot of effort, energy, but he himself cannot bring the magic that France needed of last night's game.
Do you know why I say I knew that France cannot survive Spain?
No, sir.
You know, Spain has a very good record, especially in group stages. They won all their 3 games, and they played the quarterfinal with the host nation,
Germany, and Germany.
Yes, they won, and they have scored more goals. And France, when you look at the France, they have problem with the attackers. Yeah. They don't always score goals. I think only 2 goals that they have scored first, apart from the penalties box. So their winning are very slim. I must tell you that the best team is in Spain, and Spain is going to take the cup. They have very good, talented young players, like the 16-year in Yamal. Yeah. He is very talented, and majority of the players, when you see, they are playing from
top clubs.
Yes, top clubs like Barcelona, like Real Madrid, and so on.
Clubs.
So they have taken their time, build a very young team, and they have a very good future ahead of them. Now for France, as I told you, France had problem with attack. They don't
the attack line is not solid.
It's not very solid, and there's no cooperation a lot between Mbappe and Dembele and so on and so forth.
Aside from Mbappe, we see a lot of selfish football being played by those French guys.
Yes, for sure, and that's why it was a very uphill for them to climb yesterday, and Spain had to just win them in normal time. So We hope that we are going to see a very good final between Spain and whosoever, whether England or
it can be England or Netherlands.
or Netherlands.
They'll be playing today. So let's predict. What's the prediction for tonight's match? Netherlands and England.
I give it to England 2-1.
2-1.
Yes,
Just
England
like,
will
just
win
like
no
what,
matter.
just like what the Spanish did.
Yes, England
yes.
has a very good team,
Okay.
and they are playing well. They are scoring,
Have you-
and you see them very organized.
Have you taken a good look at these Dutch boys?
Yes, they are team to is solid.
they are quite strong because they are of age and they are quite resistant.
Yes.
They don't fall anyhow, and their attack line is quite solidable.
I see a lot of organization in England
In
team,
the
and
English team.
hopefully they will play with Spain in final.
All right, I'm going for the Dutch. I'm going for the Dutch, and I
Okay.
pray for the finals who will lift up the trophy.
Of course, Spain.
Italy did it last season, so
Spain, we don't doubt.
2024 for you, Spain.
Yes, Spain.
All right,
there's no
I
doubt.
won't say much more on that. Musa, it was a pleasure having you on set.
Thank you, Mr. Larry. The pleasure was mine. I'm very happy always to sit here, and I know the newspaper, so thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for coming, and we appreciate you coming as usual. Viewers of the program Press Brief, and this is what we're going to be wrapping today's program for today, the midweek edition of Press Brief. But the program will be yours tomorrow, exactly 9 a.m. For me and the entire crew, it's a blessed stay in the company of High Television, as we will come your way tomorrow, exact time. Bye-bye.